I am Kalila Reynolds, and welcome to another live edition of Taking Stock. We're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. We want to remind you to head over to the website, KalilaReynolds.com, once this live has ended, to get my newsletter straight to your inbox. Dos tiempos por semana. Something like that. Also, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. And of course, let me know where you're joining us from this evening. Let me know in the comments below. Now, here's a look at what's coming up in tonight's show, followed by what's hot in business. And of course, come on, let's get this money.
As we wrap up Women's Month, we are highlighting two phenomenal women in business. Naomi Garrick, CEO of Garrick Communications, also known as the PR Chick, and Epic Transformation CEO Stacey Hines will reflect on their journeys, successes, and failures. And the Analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. Wisynco's 6-month results are out. How did they perform? And NCB Capital Markets is raising billions for a new real estate fund. We'll discuss. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart. NCB is considering permanently closing some of its ABMs in light of rising attacks. The bank said a review of its ABM network may lead to the temporary closure of some of its 24/7 machines at night or the permanent closure of locations. NCB did not specify the locations that would be affected, but said that ABMs that have been vandalized or stolen have not been replaced. The announcement comes after 2 separate attacks on beryllium guards servicing ABMs in Portmore. 1 security guard died and others were seriously injured. Beryllium is one of the main service providers that transports cash for financial institutions. NCB is encouraging customers to make purchases using their credit, debit, and prepaid cards or link. Steps are reportedly being taken to shut down investment firm Stocks and Securities Limited. According to a report from The Gleaner, the move follows investigations by the Financial Services Commission, which show that SSL does not have enough money to pay its debts. SSL is at the center of an international fraud investigation after an employee confessed to stealing billions of dollars over a decade. According to The Gleaner, up to January 31, SSL had assets of 1.1 billion Jamaican dollars and liabilities of 1.2 billion. Additional losses for the year so far amounted to $184 million, plus $29 million of negative equity and $623 million in loans. The FSC is reportedly seeking permission from the Supreme Court to wind up the company. The company's Office of Jamaica says a record 5,412 new limited liability companies were incorporated in 2022. The agency said the number of businesses seeking renewals also increased by more than 6% over 2021. However, the number of registrations for new sole proprietorship and partnership businesses dropped 7%. Even so, almost 16,000 new business names were added to the register. The agency explained that incorporating a business has more requirements than registering a business name. Jamaica fell 5 places in the 2023 World Happiness Report. It now ranks 68 out of the 137 countries. The World Happiness Report is published annually by the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. It measures countries' happiness based on a life evaluation scale of 0 to 10. Countries are ranked based on average income, social support, healthy life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, generosity, and perception of corruption. Jamaica and the Dominican Republic were the only 2 Caribbean countries to make this year's list. Finland ranked number 1 on the list for the 6th consecutive year, followed by Denmark and Iceland. Afghanistan was at the bottom of the list with a score of 1.8. Parts of the computer code used to run Twitter were leaked online last week, exposing the social media company to potential hacks. Twitter said the code was leaked in an online collaborative platform used by software developers, but it is unclear how long the code had been online. On Friday, the company filed a court order to help determine the source of the leak. The data breach comes as Twitter is struggling to stay afloat following an exodus of advertisers from the platform over fears of a rise in hate speech. In an email, Twitter CEO Elon Musk suggested that the social media company was valued at about $20 billion or less than half of the $44 billion he paid for the company last year. What's Hot was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy.
Just 2 hours with me can change your life, but don't take it from me.
Why I decided to buy Kalila's masterclass, which is, for me, was a game changer.
I'm Kalila Reynolds, financial journalist and educator, and I'm on a mission to help you get better with money. Take my all-new Money Mission Masterclass. We're talking about budgeting.
My top things today were about budgeting and investing.
We're kicking bad debt out the door.
And also learn about how to pay off your credit card debt.
And I'm giving you the keys to wealth creation by helping you getting started with investing.
This masterclass helped me to start my investment journey.
I had so many takeaways.
The way that I look at money now and saving, I look at it different now.
With a bonus module from Keisha Bailey, my girl, the Profit Jumpstarter, who'll show you how to find great companies to invest in.
I've been in the investing industry now for over 18 years.
So give yourself the best gift. Go to KalilaReynolds.com/masterclass to join the Money Mission. Let's get this money. Okay. All right. Technology. Yeah. Let's get this money. Hello. I have a question though. What is going on tonight? Is Champ still on? Because I'm not seeing. Is it because, we're all wrapped up in the euphoria of Champs? Or I don't want to make this conclusion because we're talking about women in business. Our views are down. People don't want to watch that. What's going on? I see even no sense. Say you're dead tonight. I wonder why. I see some people commenting. So let me big up those of you who are tuned in right now. Who we have as our first comment? Antoinette Todd, as usual, says, "Good night, money makers. Are we all ready to be financially empowered once more?" Yes, we are. Lithium Lily says, "Hello, world." Omi says, "Let's get this money." Joining us from Jacaranda Homes in Spanish Town. Raquel Francis, one of our regulars, says, "Good night, team." I say all the comments are coming in now, so maybe we just had some kind of delay. Orville Reeves says, "Diamond." Yeah, Orville, another regular. Chris Hill, another regular, joining us from Panama City. And yeah, all the views are coming in. So you guys, I don't know, you were just late with it today, or maybe we had a delay on our end, maybe some internet issues, I don't know. But hopefully we get those views up, let other people know that the show is on tonight, on and popping. So as we wrap up Women's Month, we are highlighting two phenomenal women in business. We have with us Naomi Garrick. She's the CEO of Garrick Communications, also known as the PR Chick. And we also have the CEO of Epic Transformation, Stacey Hines. Hey, Stacey. Hey, Naomi.
Of course, I'm muted, right?
There you go.
Hi, ladies.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
Awesome. I love to have you.
I need to join the Money Mission.
I know.
Hey.
That is so good.
We will talk. Things are happening around this side. I had an amazing meeting today, but let's not get into our Schmilly talk right now. Yeah, so Naomi and Stacey, were in Puerto Rico in January as well. Mm-hmm. So they're two of fellow Schmillies, and we've been learning a lot from each other over the past few months. So you guys are here this evening to reflect on your journeys, your successes, your failures, what has led you here today. Naomi's been on the show before. Stacey, it is your first time.
Yes.
So let me start with you. Introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, I'm Stacey Hines, and I'm Chief Transformation Officer of Epic Transformation, and we deal with all things transformational. So I'm a tech girl. So one side of the business focuses on helping businesses go through digital transformation. So all of this talk that you're hearing about putting your business online and making sure that you can collect payments online, all of those things, we specialize in that. And then there's another side of the business that focuses on women and helping women to create success without stress. So all about creating success for the soft life way. We're not into the hard life kind of work, right? So we want to definitely be able to to share expertise and tools and resources that you can use, whether you're a business that's seeking to grow and blossom in this time where everything is tech, or if you're a woman who wants to thrive and make sure that you stay fly while you're doing so.
Success without stress. I love it. Is that even possible?
It is very, very possible. So while you will not necessarily eliminate pain from your life, right? Because people are like, oh, if I don't have stress, that means I don't have to deal with no drama or not toxic relationships. No, you'll have to deal with those things because that's a part of life. It's just how you deal with it, right? So you have the pain, but you don't have the suffering, which is where the hard life part usually comes in. So it is very possible.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Naomi, for those who are new to you, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Sure. So thank you, Kalila. So my name is Naomi Garrick. I'm also known as the PR chick. I am the CEO of Garrick Communications, but I'm also a personal branding coach and trainer. So my company for the Garrick Communications for the last 13 years, we really help to position lifestyle and business brands. And we do that by leveraging the media. So we get placements in print, so that's newspapers, magazines, articles, features, radio, television, digital platforms like Taking Stock. And essentially, we try to allow our clients to be seen, heard, and experienced by their ideal audience. And we do that through leveraging the media as well as creative storytelling. So a big thing about Garrick Communications is that we believe that PR is so much more than a press release. And so we find very creative ways of getting the right stories out to the right audience in order to deliver the results that our clients want. On the other side, I'm a personal branding coach. For the last 4 years, I've been helping professionals to build better and more purposeful and profitable brands. And so it's really about getting the clarity on who you are, understanding what your unique value is, and then how to actually communicate that effectively so that you are speaking to your ideal audience, whether as an entrepreneur or as an intrapreneur or you're working for a company. You already have a personal brand, but we need to ensure that you're actually positioning yourself in the right way so that you can be available for opportunities that were meant for you.
Perfect. And I can testify, Naomi is a boss at what she does. I've worked with you before informally. So I took all your free stuff. and
Nothing wrong with that.
So much value from that. Yeah. All right. So Stacey, tell us how you got started in this whole world. So there are not many women in tech. So how did you start there? And then you can tell us later about the business transformation side of what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I started in tech at a really early age because my dad was a techie. And so from 9 years old, I was exposed to computers and I used to go to work with him. And so I kind of fell in love with technology there. But then what really got me interested and invested in tech, and I see a lot of people, of course, were on the money show, right? I recognized that there was a lot of opportunity in tech, meaning lots of jobs at the time. But then now what I recognize is just how much possibility there is to actually build business from tech. And so I actually started my company like 2017, even though I just recently launched on my own full time. So I had a full-time job. And because of technology, I was able to actually build out my businesses. And the first part was actually helping entrepreneurs to figure out how to put their businesses online. And Naomi was actually a part of one of my boot camps so that you could continue to earn and make money, especially when the pandemic hit. And a lot of businesses in Jamaica did not have their companies online. And the biggest challenge that they were facing was, well, how do I get my company online? How do I get money, to actually transition from customers globally to my bank account? So we tackled a lot of those problems. And I really fell in love with the ability to help entrepreneurs in particular to actually access their greatness through their digital business. So I spent a lot of time building that side of the business. And now I do that not only for small companies, but also for big companies. And I think it's really rewarding. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I actually love the work that you do, Kalila, because having access to financial freedom makes you feel so free in general. And I love that I'm able to support companies in leveraging technology to do just that.
So what did you do before you launched out on your own? You said you had a full-time job before. Was it along the same lines or something completely different?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I started off in what would be considered pure tech. So I would either work for a tech company, and I work mostly overseas. So I just moved home 9 years ago. Before that, I lived in the United States and Canada, and I worked in multiple countries around the world. And I used to lead tech companies in actually building out software. So, like, we're using YouTube. I used to help a company that would build a platform that would be similar to like a YouTube, as an example. And when I moved back to Jamaica, I actually worked for an investment company that owned many companies. And the reason I joined that group of companies was because they wanted all their businesses to have that technology infrastructure so that they could expand and do business on a global scale. And while I was doing that work, a lot of entrepreneurs in Jamaica, because our community is relatively small, a lot of entrepreneurs in Jamaica would reach out to me to ask me for help with their technology needs. So whether it was a website or they wanted to build out a membership community or whatever their challenge was, they would reach out to me for the tech. And because I also love the marketing side, it was just a really great blend, and I found myself spending a lot more time focusing on the entrepreneurs and then eventually helping even in the government side of things, because I also serve on a lot of boards. Like Startup Jamaica was one of those boards where they were helping early stage companies as well. And I started to do a lot of service outside of my regular 9 to 5, both in my business and also on serving on boards or serving in the government to help other persons access technology.
So it was like a natural transition
it was
for
a
you from,
natural, scary transition.
so you already had clients when you took that leap to become an entrepreneur.
What I would say is I had already had clients. I had to go hunting for new clients, and I'm still hunting for clients right now. Actually, I had to go hunting
You
for new
always
clients.
have to.
And and that's the scary part, right? Because when you're getting that paycheck, it just coming in regular, and you just feel nice and comfortable, because at the end of the month or every fortnight or whatever, you can count on that little check coming through. But when you're stepping into your own business, you are literally not just looking and creating the check, but you are also doing everything else. So you have to open the door, you have to close the door, you have to buy the computer, you have to, So I did not already have a client. I had to go hunting for clients in order to actually start the business. Yeah.
Wait, no, so all right. So what came first? You had you left your full-time job to launch your business and then you found clients, or you found clients first and then left your business?
I found one particular client first. So one of the things that I would definitely say, especially if you're transitioning from corporate and you have children like me who have 5, right? You're transitioning from corporate into full-time work. You want to make sure that you're leveraging 2 things. You're leveraging your existing opportunities and you're leveraging technology. So for me, leveraging existing opportunities was looking around the companies that I had been interacting with while I was full-time and seeing how I could help solve a problem, right? And then once I was able to identify, okay, there are several problems I can solve, then it was which one of these problems is going to give me a consistent enough earning so that I don't have to worry about money for like 6 months. So that was my approach. It was a 6 to 12 month contract that would allow me to feel like I had some sanity and safety, a safety net, so to speak, while I was building my business. Another path that somebody recommended was that I was to actually save up 6 months just for the business. But you see, when you also have, again, the 5 children, we talked about that. When you have a lot of
5.
expenses,
You really have 5 children, Stacey?
I do. I have 3 of my own and 2 bonus. So
I am in awe. I am in awe. 5. Wow, that's a lot to manage.
Yeah, man.
We'll circle back to that, but back to your point.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that you are leveraging. If you don't have the cash up front, like sitting in your bank account that you can say, well, I have a nest egg so I can go out and build, then you want to start to make sure that you book a client that can give you like a 6 month runway, get that 6 month runway that will allow you to continue to build and find other clients without your hair falling out or stressing. Right. So that's the path I took.
Well, I'm very curious to hear what it was like for Naomi, because you weren't always an entrepreneur either. I first met you at RETV, many moons ago, when I was a producer trying to be a host, and you were in marketing, right? You were in the marketing department.
So I was here listening to Stacey's story, and I was like, oh, definitely a different journey over this side. So I actually studied hotel and tourism management. I didn't end up graduating because I couldn't pass statistics and accounting and all those fun mathematical subjects. But I still went ahead in the industry as if I had my degree. I mean, my resume just said it was pending, whatever that meant. And I still proceeded applying for these opportunities anyway. And I ended up working in hotel and tourism for maybe about 2.5 years. And I realized very quickly that maybe the hotel industry really wasn't for me. I lived on property. I actually was a training manager for super clubs. And again, this is where personal branding comes in, right? I didn't know it was personal branding at the time, but I was like this nuff intern or training manager from Kingston. And I was in everybody's department and everybody knew who I was. I was actually working in the sales department first for about 5 months, should have been 2 weeks. And I got an offer from the general manager of Grand Lido Grill at the time, which was a flagship resort, to break this contract as a training manager and actually become a sales manager at Grand Lido Grill, because he saw this potential and he saw how I networked and just the relationships I developed at the previous resort. So that was very exciting for me, because at the time I would have been maybe about 22, 23, and I'm living at one of the best hotels in Jamaica. I thought I'd be on the beach every day. I definitely was not. I was working sometimes 14-day weeks with no day off, and I realized that maybe this was not for me. I moved back to Kingston, had no idea what I was going to do. One, because I didn't have a degree, and two, because the experience I had was hotel and tourism, and I didn't want to go back into that industry. So I happened to meet Kimani Robinson, who was the owner of RETV at the time. They were pretty new. Cable was a big deal at the time. There was just really RETV and Hype TV, and they needed a sales and marketing coordinator, and I applied for the job. And I just shared my expertise that I had gained in the last 2 years in sales and marketing. And I got the job. And I ended up becoming the sales and marketing manager for RETV. I was working there for almost 5 years. That's where I would have met you, Kalila. I thought I was really at the prime of my life at that time, because, you know, I was going to all the events and I knew all the artists. And,
it was a fun job.
Exciting time, right? But then around that same time, maybe I think it would have been 2005, I actually was pregnant with my son. And it's almost like I just knew in that moment that I didn't want to be in this industry anymore. I wanted, as Stacey said, you know, more of that soft life, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get it. But I knew I didn't want to have to be going to all these events. I wanted to have time and flexibility and a little bit more freedom. So I was kind of like at a crossroads again of not being sure what I wanted to do based on the experience I have, and I knew what I didn't want to do. The Spanish Court Hotel was opening. They needed a corporate communications manager. But even before that, I got approached by Dexter Pottinger. He was doing a lot of music videos at the time. He was the makeup artist for all of our shows. Yeah, and
That's how I know him too, from RETV.
Yeah, but one day he just
stylist, makeup artist, everything.
He was the best. He just said to me, Naomi, I'm working with this new artist, Tifa, and she needs a great publicist, and I think you'd be perfect. And I was just like, but I'm not a publicist. I don't do PR. Maybe I wrote 2 press releases for RETV during my entire time there. But he had so much belief in me that I said, okay, let me try. And we didn't have Google yet. So I remember walking to Samsa's bookstore and buying all the books I could find about PR for dummies, how to be a publicist. I still have those books in my office now. So I could learn more about this role that I was going to take on. But what I didn't realize at the time was, because of my natural personality and how relationship driven I am, I had developed real relationships with people in the media industry. So the people behind the scenes, you know, the editors, the producers, the people that actually determine what we see in the news, what we hear on the radio, what we see in the newspapers. And so when I started writing these press releases or inviting them to come behind the scenes for a music video, they were showing up. or I started seeing my articles being placed, or I started seeing us on the cover of the Star or something else related. And I realized that maybe I had a little edge in this space. One, because I work in the media. I write very well. I used to write for the Teenage Observer as well. And I've developed these relationships where I actually have access to those people that make these kinds of decisions. So fast tracking back to Spanish Quartatel, which of course is in the hospitality industry where I said I wasn't going back. They needed a corporate communications manager. And of course, I don't have experience in corporate communications. But what I did have experience in was hotel and tourism management, sales and marketing, and now media, and now a little bit of PR.
Right.
So I still showed up for the interview.
So you were value stacking, Naomi.
Right.
Stacking.
So I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. I was just using what I had, which was my personal brand. I didn't know that's what it was, right? So it's combining all your skills and knowledge and experience to position yourself in a unique way that no one else can, because nobody has the experience that you have. So of course, on the job offer, the job the job, whatever the job thing is that they post for jobs, right? You had to have a degree in communications. I didn't have a degree in anything, but I still showed up anyway. And I positioned myself based on the experience I had and this unique value that I was going to bring to this new boutique hotel. I got the job on the spot, but 3 months after, I realized again very, very quickly that this was not the right space for me. And so I decided, not like Stacey, to plan through and think that maybe I need to stay in my 9 to 5 and then try and figure out how to do this on the side. I just made a decision to start my company in 2009. I did not have any money. I didn't have 6 months of money saved up for business. I had what was in here, and I had a laptop, a BlackBerry, and a digital camera, because we didn't have smartphones and I needed to take my camera to capture those shots. And that was it. And what happened for me?
You took a leap of faith.
I took the leap of faith, Khalil. I don't know if it was a smart thing at the time, but I just went with it, right? And what ended up happening, and this is why PR is so important. It's such an important tool, and it really impacted my own personal life. The Gleaner had heard that I had started my own company, and they had asked if they could do a little feature about me transitioning to entrepreneurship, and they wanted to shoot this thing in my office, which of course I didn't have an office. But the Spanish court allowed me to do the shoot there in their beautiful lobby. And it ended up being the cover story of the Flair magazine. It was a 3-page story. Wow. And that's how I got my first client, which was BNBS. And they had me on a PR retainer for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Our company just turned 13 in October, and we've never advertised our business.
Wow. That's a real boss move right there. That's a real boss move.
Listen, it's been a journey. I mean, as you know, Kalila and Stacey, the entrepreneurship journey is really, it's a roller coaster of emotions. It's like, I didn't study business. I mean, I had to take out a loan once to pay my staff. It's a mess. But when you love what you do and you realize that you have something that no one else has, and you can actually bring value to a space, you can provide employment, you're actually helping other families to grow as well through your little seed, your little company that you started. The impact can be so massive. So it really makes it worth it at the end of the day, but it is not easy.
Yep. Yeah, it's so interesting how we all have our unique journeys. Because I kind of started as an intrapreneur, if that's a word, right? Intrapreneur. So you start something within your existing companies. I was at NNN and started this show, Taking Stock, which was on NNN as well, and earning money for NNN in addition to me. And I was fortunate to have an employer who, encouraged that, because he came from a similar background. Cliff Hughes worked at RJR, and then he started NNN, and not many employers encourage that, unfortunately. Right. And I've had his blessing ever since, which is awesome. But it's not necessarily the case for everyone. Did either of you ever feel like you had to kind of hide your side hustles while you're still fully employed?
I definitely did, for sure. And I think a large part of it came from, well, there's two sides to it, depending on what kind of role you have. Some companies, they actually, it's written in your contract, like you can't have a side hustle, or you certainly can't have anything that has you visible. And depending on the level that you are in the company, there can be some nuances to it as well. And so I actually had to have conversations, because with women, what women tend to be is people say we're risk averse, but we're actually more risk aware. We think about all the different things that could potentially go wrong or happen, or how much people will have to take care of if this crisis occurs, right? And so because we always take those different things into consideration, when you're thinking about stepping out, that risk radar starts to go off a million times over. So for me, I definitely had a lot of that kind of processing that I had to do, where it wasn't really, I didn't even recognize it as a side hustle. At first, it started out as just helping somebody. And then I realized, oh, I can actually get paid because I'm helping this person. And then I eventually had to have a conversation, because I started getting into the media, and that was nowhere, without even trying to necessarily get PR, I was getting free PR, which is the way you want it, right? And so that required me to have a conversation, just based on the level that I was at in the organization.
Yeah.
We call that earn the PR, Stacey.
Earn the PR. Right. Earn the PR. And I did want to make one point too, guys, when Naomi was talking about shifting out of her her stable, what would have been considered a stable job, into her launching her business. And similarly for Kalila, and even for myself, we all had something that nobody can take away from you. And that's your expertise, that's your skill. So even before you recognize it as a brand, which Naomi is exceptional at doing, right? She's helped both me and Kalila with that. I would say that what you have to recognize is your expertise. Naomi had made all these different, so that BlackBerry was worth several millions of dollars just based on the numbers and the names that she had in that BlackBerry. And her laptop, she had probably designed other things written how many articles and press releases, etc., for other persons. So she was bringing that with her. The value that is, people talk about the cash, but let me tell you guys, even before you have the cash in the bank, you have so much intrinsic value just based on your skill, your expertise, who you know, right? What you have in your backyard, sometimes in the trunk of your car, you don't even know what is valuable, right? So just remember that when you're thinking about doing the stepping out.
Yeah. Now, both of you have mentioned that you're moms. So Naomi, you started making that transition when you were pregnant. Stacey mentioned a couple of times the 5 kids, 5 picnic. My story is well known as well. I started this business properly pregnant, 6 months pregnant when the show launched. What was that like for you, Naomi, being a brand new mom and having this child to support? And you are an entrepreneur and you have to pay these bills. No, you don't have the stability of that paycheck.
Oh my God, that was a lot. What I will say, Kalila, is God is good. Because sometimes when I look back on my career journey, I remember, because when I had a journey, I was still at RETV. I hadn't left yet. And I used to feel so guilty leaving in the days to go to work. Like there was a time where Ajani would just like hold on to the gate and cry when I'm driving out. And that was a big problem for me. And I grew up in a household of entrepreneurs. So I knew what that access was like, to have access to your parents, right? Because they were one was always there. And I wanted to have something like that. But as I said, I didn't have a plan. And so we had many times, my car was repossessed at one point as well, because I couldn't make the monthly payments. I mentioned that, at one point I had to take one of these awful quick loans just so that I could meet payroll for my team. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey. But what it did for me, one, I had a big why, which was my child. So those days when I didn't feel like going to work or writing that press release or covering that event, I definitely got myself out of the bed and wherever I needed to go, because I had a major responsibility. And at the end of the day, I wanted to create a comfortable life for both of us. And so that really being my driving force really pushed me to go beyond even what I thought I could, especially in the early days. Even to this day, some days I'm like, I'm ready to just go and work for somebody. But
Somehow I can't see you doing that.
I was just thinking about the fact that I can't remember the last, and that's my fault, that I've taken like a real vacation, like meaning I don't check my emails and I don't check my messages. And then I feel like bad mind when my employees actually are on vacation and I know I can't message them and stuff. So there's a lot still.
Yeah, you need to fix
Getting
that.
better at it.
By the way, Team KRM is going on vacation 1 week in like Easter week, so there will be no taking stock that week.
Nice.
Just giving you guys a heads up.
I love that.
Will know that we do this every year. 1 week for Easter, 2 weeks for Christmas. We are off.
So we do that for Christmas for sure. We take a group vacation where we close our offices because we all need a break.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like as well, whether you are an employee or an entrepreneur, you're gonna get the mom guilt either way. Once you are working, you're gonna get the mom guilt. Because I remember when Alexa was small, Alexa's my oldest, who's 20 now, and I've been working in media all my adult life, and media schedules are early morning or late at night. And I remember doing early morning radio, and like during commercial breaks, like trying to comb her hair and giving her some porridge under the table between commercials as a little kid. And then when I was on the late night shift, she is like there with me at the office at 10 o'clock at night, sleeping under the desk. And it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough. So, and that's and that was as an employee, you know, as an entrepreneur, the challenges are different, but they're still there. So what is that balance like for you, Stacey? And I don't even like that word so much, the balance. But how do you deal with that, being a mom of 5 and an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, you know, so my also known as is the Balanced Lady Boss, and I have a podcast that is really all about, you know, it's called Balanced Lady Boss Show, and it's all about demystifying what balance is. Because the truth is that when you have balance in one area of your life, more than likely you'll be out of balance in another area. And the key thing, remember that whole thing, you can have the pain, but you don't have to have the suffering, is that you just recognize that and you accept it to be so. Now, it's easier to say no, you know, after however many kids and however many years and years of putting myself through mental suffering. But I'll say that it's a journey. And one of the things that as women we have to do is we really have to give ourselves grace, because we are really superior beings. And I mean, you know, I love my guys, nothing against the men, but listen, ladies, we actually give birth to other humans. And then we beat up ourselves when we have to go back to work or we have to carry the 2 or 3 jobs, right? I remember with my son, I was employed for a long time before I started my company. With my son, I didn't want to go back to work after the 6 weeks was up, because I used my 2 weeks vacation plus the 4 weeks maternity. This is in the States. And I would sit there at the computer with Jelani in my lap, like he was so small, but I would sit there working with him in my lap. I negotiated to get that. And then with my daughter, I remember I had a big promotion that I had just gotten, and I had to travel to New York when she was like 4 months old. And I was breastfeeding, and I was not going to be outdone. So while I was in New York, I was FedExing my breast milk back just so that she wouldn't be drinking formula, right? So in between meetings, that's what I was doing. You were doing porridge, I was pumping and dropping off at FedEx, right? and so what I think it's done for me more than anything else is when my kids see, like I got an award recently from the High Commission of Canada.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And when that happened, the coolest thing, the best thing for me that day was not the award, but when my daughters came home from school and saw it at the door, because I put it on my little table at the door, and they were like, wow, Mom, this is so cool. I'm so proud of you. And my son was messaging me. Like, I mean, my life just felt like, yes, if I die today, I have lived. Because you talk about it being your why. You know, children are such a great inspiration. They provide you with that intrinsic motivation to keep going. Because sometimes we can't do it for ourselves. Sometimes we don't want to go make that money for ourselves, but we want to go make the money to support the kids, right? We want to make the money so that we can help them to achieve their dreams, and that's okay too, So I would say, if anything, just make sure that while you're momming and bossing it, just give yourself grace and know that on the other side, hopefully the children will love you enough to take care of you someday.
Yeah, that's so true. Like a big motivation for me right at this very moment is, my oldest is now in college, and I know college is expensive. College in the US, oh my goodness. And I know we've got to help her, and so that's a big part of my drive right now, making sure that, we can help her out to pay for all the expenses that come with that. Jason says FedEx breast milk. Wow. Says, I'm inspired. Wow, for real. I totally am. That is a boss move right there. So last question. What was it again? I don't forget what my last question was. Oh, it was based on this comment from Jason, who said the work-life balance is tough. Sometimes I feel like if you take the eyes off the prize, you're going to miss out just a male perspective. But I think that it's 10 times harder for women in business. Would you agree with that it's harder as a woman? Naomi?
I think so.
Why?
I think so because, one, just going back to what Stacey said, as women, even if we have great partners, I feel like we still take on a lot of the responsibility, whether we have to or not. I think it's just a part of who we are. So we're managing the household. If we have a partner, we're doing all the things with the partner. And then we're trying to find our own personal time. And then we're trying to create the life that we deserve. And then we're either working at a company or trying to run a business. But we don't just go to work and do our job and then come home and chill. And I'm not saying that's what all men do. As Stacey had mentioned, I don't remember how you had referred to it, Stacey, that we are risk
aware. We're more risk aware.
So it's like we are still just calculating life-related things every day, all day, in addition to trying to run this business that we're trying to create, right? To create more opportunities for other people. So yeah, that I definitely think it is entrepreneurship. One is difficult for everybody, but I think for a woman CEO, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
Stacey, do you feel like people take you less seriously because you're a woman, especially in the tech industry, because you're a minority in your industry as a woman?
Teeny tiny minority. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, guys, that it is probably even more than just 10 times harder. We do have challenges with access to the room, just being able to actually get into a space where you can ask for funding, where you can have that important meeting. It is still very much the boys' club. And the statistics show that less than 2% of women-run businesses are actually funded by venture capitalist funds. And a large part of that is because we are in a patriarchal society. That's just the way it was structured. Women were home and men were at work doing the thing. And then we have essentially been making strides to create equity or equality in some sense. And for me, what I believe we're actually looking for is not necessarily to have 50% men and 50% women having the same positions or the same number of CEOs, but just so that women can have equal access, because that's what's not equal in this moment. And so that's where you find that it is 10 times harder, because we have to do the presentation 10 times over when a man will just do it one time. We have to make sure that our qualifications are above and beyond, whereas a man cannot necessarily have all the qualifications. And a large part of the work comes through our building our confidence, similar to how Naomi was like going after the jobs, even though she didn't have the degree. A lot of women don't have that confidence already built in. We are oftentimes challenged with that worthiness and that sense of deserving. And so that's the work that we have to do, more so than the actual work in the business. It's the work on the confidence, talking about what we are valued, our expertise, putting ourselves out there and making sure that we are seen and heard. So it is more challenging, and I believe that we are making strides just by even having these conversations, Kalila. So thank you for the space. And I think that globally, because it is a global problem, we are seeing strides happen. But the women, we have taken up on ourselves now to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to big up ourselves, get the business structured properly, get the network of women that's going to help to uplift you and to move you forward. So it's work on both sides to get that equity.
Yeah, we're way over time, but I just love talking to you ladies. I could talk to you all night. But I do want to ask this final question since it comes from one of our viewers, and it's from Sheldon. Sheldon says, what advice would you give someone struggling to find their true skills to capitalize on? Who wants to take that one?
I think I could take that one. So one of the big things that I do as a personal branding coach, Sheldon, is just exactly that. Most of us, whether men or women, we struggle with actually understanding that greatness that we already have within us, whether you refer to it as true skills that you want to capitalize on, or as Stacey said, experience and expertise. And so one of the things that I strongly recommend is to do a journey mapping exercise. And what that is actually taking that time to do that introspection on yourself, just taking out a notepad, taking out your phone, going in notes, and start listing things, listing your experience, listing your knowledge, listing your skills, listing your natural talents, just listing all of the experiences that make you who you are. Because sometimes when that imposter syndrome kicks in, or we're trying to validate, we actually have some tangible information that we can look back on and say, oh, but I did this. I achieved this. These are some of my major accomplishments from this space. Or this is some kind of expertise that I provide that nobody else does because of my own experience. Yeah. Something I say over and over is that, your personal brand is not your job title. Because no matter how many people have a job title, there's no one in the entire world that does what you do exactly the way that you do it.
True.
And that's because of your own unique perspective, how you analyze things, your experience, knowledge, skills, and expertise.
Big facts. Big facts. Well, thank you so much, Naomi and Stacey. We shall be in touch. A lot to update you on.
Yes.
Can't wait.
We gotta talk.
Thanks so much for having
us, Kalila.
Thanks for coming on. All right. So to the viewers, tonight we have our poll question, and here it is. In light of the recent deadly robberies of money trucks, should Jamaica go cashless? Boy, it's a big debate right now. Yes, it's much safer. No, we're not ready for that. See, I don't know, or other, leave a comment. What do you think? There have been robberies. They've been deadly. People have been vandalizing, stealing the ATMs. And, just managing cash right now is very dangerous. So in light of that, should Jamaica go cashless? Yes, it's much safer. No, we're not ready for that. C, I don't know. Or D, other, leave a comment. You can participate in this poll in the community section of our YouTube channel. We're going to take a quick break for market recap, and then we'll be back with the analysts.
This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy.
We all want a relationship that's long-lasting, built on a firm foundation with unwavering commitment. Bulwark Insurance Agency is a bastion for excellent service. With the strong support of our warm and friendly staff, we nurture lasting relationships, exceeding your expectations, creating wealth, and securing your future. Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy.
Hey moneymakers, join the KRM fam with our official merch. Get it now at KalilaReynolds.com. Let's get this money.
The JC Combined Index lost almost 4,000 points or 1% last week. 120 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, March 24, 2023. 35 made gains, 78 lost value, and 7 stayed the same. 146 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $498 million. Trans-Jamaican Highway was the week's most traded stock. It took up 20% of market volume with 34 million shares trading. The stock opened Monday at $1.40. First Rock Real Estate Investments USD traded the second highest. The stock opened this week at 6 cents US. And Wigton Wind Farm rounded out last week's most traded with 15 million shares changing hands. The stock lost 1 cent open Monday at 71 cents. Now let's see who had the biggest gains for the week. JPS 7% was the week's biggest gainer again. The stock was up 158% open Monday at $397.99. Key Insurance was the second biggest gainer. It went up almost 33% to start the new week at $3.50. PBS USD rounded out last week's biggest gains. The stock was up almost 32% to start the new week at $1.75 US. On the losing side now, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances was last week's biggest loser, down almost 26%. The stock opened Monday at $1.03. Blue Power Group was down 15%, opening the new week at $2.06. And CAC 2000 was also down 14%, closing the week at $7.02. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index lost 7 points last week. Massey Holdings was the most traded stock. It opened this week at $4.55 TT. The stock was also the market's biggest gain, up 1%. And on the losing side, LJ Williams Limited fell 6% to open Monday at $2.56 TT. Over in the US, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 gained 1% last week, while the Nasdaq gained almost 2%. Motorists got a win at the pumps last week as gas prices fell $3.06 and diesel prices dropped another $4.50. In foreign exchange, it took an average $151.75 Jamaican to purchase $1 last Friday. That's $1.24 less than a week before. Meanwhile, it took an average $110.98 Jamaican to purchase $1 Canadian. One British pound cost on average $186.23 Jamaican. And you could buy €1 for $166.03 Jamaican on average. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices have been stable over the past 5 days, with the cryptocurrency trading at $27,372 on Monday, while Ethereum fell 1%, trading at $1,719 on Monday. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica National Group. We'll help you find a way. Disclaimer: this is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions.
Awesome. Welcome back. Let me take a few of your comments now. Roswell says, very inspiring hearing from you ladies. I love the way you stood ground in spite of the high wave and mountain-like situation. Patricia also saying that such inspiring stories, ladies. Jason says, kudos, I'm still on my journey. I used to work at a call center and I started selling snacks in the office. Had to bribe the security at one snack to get goods on the floor. Worth it. Cheryl says, inspirational discussion. Lithium Lily noting says, keep up the good work, ladies. And Cheryl again saying, thank you, ladies. Hashtag boss ladies. Hashtag inspirational. So let us get into the analysts. And we're going to welcome back Faye Samwells, who's a senior research analyst at JN Group, and also David Rose, business writer at the Observer newspaper. Welcome back, Faye and David.
Good evening, Kalila.
Great to have you on. We're starting with Wisynco. And Faye, you've been analyzing their 6-month results. We always look forward to your thorough reports. So let's hear what's up with Wisynco.
Okay, good evening, Kalila, and good evening, viewers. Could you share my screen, please? Okay, so of course, we'll be looking at Wisynco's recent 6-month results. So here are some Wisynco products in the first slide. I'm going to give you a little brief intro of Wisynco before we go into the financials. Okay, in its current form, Wisynco was established in 2005 as a combination of several family businesses created by the Mahfood brothers. Today, the company is a prominent manufacturer and distributor of beverages and food items in Jamaica and throughout multiple export markets. The company owns, manufactures, and distributes a portfolio of popular beverages such as water, Boom, Bigger, and they also distribute a wide array of grocery products from reputable entities including Kellogg's, General Mills, and Hershey's. The company is also currently undertaking its largest ever capital expansion in this financial year. It's looking to add an additional 200,000 square foot to its current 600,000 square foot plant. They will install 3 new plants in their existing facility, along with factory and warehousing space at Lake Spin. The company also intends to spend about $5 billion on new machinery and plant upgrades, and is projecting at least a 30% increase in production capacity once upgrades are finalized. So now a brief look at the income statement. We see that we're going to first look at the annual report from 2020 to 2022, focusing on the last one, which was 2022. So despite starting the year under the cloud of the pandemic, Wisynco reported revenues totaling $39 billion for financial year 2022, which was an increase of 22.72% over the previous year's $31 billion revenue. Even with the pandemic, you may notice that for financial year 2020 and 2021, the revenues was basically flat. However, they got a big bump going into 2022. This increase was mainly due to heightened demand across all categories as the pandemic effects waned, particularly in the second half of the financial year. The knock-on effect of this was a jump in net profits to $4 billion from $3 billion the previous year, a 31.94% jump. Now we're going to focus on the 6-month results, which was the most recent results that came out for the period ending December 2022. The latest financials show that in that quarter, despite production challenges that kept the company from achieving their forecasts and sales targets for both the local and export markets, the strong demand for Wisynco's products in all the channels allowed them to still report growth for the first 6 months of financial year 2023. During this 6-month period, Wisynco reported revenues of $24 billion, coming up from $18 billion the same period in the previous year.
Wow. So we're noticing, Faye, that year, that 2022, when they had those big numbers, the 39 billion for the full year, for the half year, it was 18. And so far for this year, we're already past the 2022 numbers.
Definitely.
Carry on. Go ahead.
Okay.
Let's see what else.
Additionally, the revenues if we just look at the December quarter, the revenues for that quarter alone was $12.1 billion, and it was the highest turnover for a single quarter in the company's history. And it represented a 28% increase above the $9.5 billion revenue that they achieved in the same period for last year. So if we go back to the 6-month results now and look at the gross profits, we see that gross profits jumped from $6.5 billion to $8.5 billion, at almost 30% increase as well. The gross margin was basically steady at 35%, which is an ideal scenario, as we can see that the company was basically stable. Looking at the efficiency ratio, we see that the efficiency ratio was also stable in spite of increases in their selling, distribution, and administration expenses. That's here. So that looks very good for the company. And overall profits, after providing for taxes, Wisynco reported net profits of approximately $2.5 billion, which was 18% greater than the $2.12 billion for the previous year. So this growth was driven by, of course, just like in the financial year results, continued boost from the reopening of the economy following from COVID. Also, the company is facing strong demands both locally and in their export markets. The company also saw an increase in their finance income and moving on from that one. The net profit margin also improved No, I'm sorry. The net profit margin was basically stable as well, similar to the gross profit margin, which also highlights again the stability of the company. The earnings per share moved from 57 cents to 67 cents, highlighting increased value for shareholders right here. Now, looking at the balance sheet, we see a similar story in the balance sheet. Strong performance from the company. Assets grew approximately 13% in the 6 months 2022 versus 6 months 2023. And this was driven by an 85% increase in inventories. In the notes to the balance sheet, the company reported that inventories remain on the high side due to continued supply chain issues and production lagging behind production forecasts. And they expect that for the next half of the financial year, they should normalize. There was also a 42% jump in receivables and prepayments and over 100% increase in long-term investment securities, which given increase in interest rates is normal and is a good thing. As such, their cash and bank balances fell by 23% because they would have to finance most of these from cash, and intangibles also fell by 90%. If we look at the liabilities, we see that they were fairly stable. Non-current liabilities fell by 10%, while current liabilities increased by a mere 4%. Shareholders' equity was also up by 14%, driven by increases in their capital reserves and increases in their profits. If we look at the price performance and valuation for Wisynco over the last few years, we see that the price has fluctuated, but in a generally upward trend from 2018 up to 2023. Currently, Wisynco trades at a price to earnings ratio of about 14 times. And considering that their historical PE ratio is about 21.65 times, we would say that it appears that Wisynco is undervalued at the moment. Our current price target for Wisynco is about $20. And you can read more information on this from our recent report on Wisynco, which will be shortly posted on our website. Outlook for the company. The outlook for Wisynco is very positive. Though economic growth has slowed in Jamaica for the last financial year compared to the previous one, it remains strong, with the most recent estimates showing a 3.4% growth for the quarter ended in December, which is a positive for all businesses, including Wisynco. Wisynco is also concentrated in sectors such as foods that are considered non-cyclical goods, and this bodes well for a company such as this, even if there is a downturn, as people will always purchase food no matter what. Their strategic partnerships is a big positive. They have partnered with companies such as Worthy Park, JP Snacks, and Tradewinds locally, and they are the exclusive local distributors or bottlers for multiple imported brands such as Coca-Cola, Ocean Spray, etc. Wisynco is also known for having one of Jamaica's most effective distribution logistics networks and has multiple international standard certification for their plants. The current expansion that they're undergoing will allow the company to decrease costs and improve profit margins. They will also be able to serve their customers better, respond more quickly to changes in demand. They can ramp up production easily, and the approximate time they have given for this is approximately 15 months. So by next year, we should start seeing the impact of that increased production capacity. Currently, exports make up less than 5% of Wisynco's revenues. They export to over 24 markets, and Wisynco is seeking to at least double this number to about 10% by 2025. So for example, the UK is their current largest market, and they're looking at expanding there, but they're also looking at increasing exports to Cuba, since the Cuban government has basically encouraged private sector distribution of food. So this will push Wisynco into different markets, allow them to earn foreign exchange, diversify their revenue stream. So that's a definite positive. Following from the increase in demand for their exports, Wisynco is also looking at possibly returning some of their production overseas to satisfy the growing demand in those markets, like, for example, in the UK. They have also acquired dual fuel for their plants. So now they are using LNG to supply, but they have also added diesel, which is a risk mitigation plan. In case of anything, you know that the plant will always be running. The company is also very innovative. You have seen that even with their Cranwater brand, they have brought on so many different lines of Cranwater that you would not even think of. They appear to always be listening to their customers. The persons request a
Yeah, they
different
have a new
flavor.
grape flavor too. That's not even
Definitely.
cran grape, it's just like grape.
Yes, they say that they listen to customers what they request and then they try to put it in. So they're also looking at possibly introducing new products going forward, and they're also experimenting with new packaging to reduce their environmental footprint. So overall, it looks good for Wisynco, but of course, there are potential risks to buying into any company. There's a risk of potential supply chain disruptions. We have seen this since COVID, where every business has been impacted. Natural disasters, other geopolitical tensions around the world can affect every business, even here in Jamaica. No matter how many inventories you build up, something can still happen and force you to have to not produce as much. Raw material prices, commodities on the world market have been trending down. They've been more stable, but one simple thing on the world market drive prices up. So that's something that a company that manufactures and uses so many raw materials has to focus on. There's also the fear of recession. And currently inflation is also trending down. But as we have seen with the US and the UK, central banks have still continued to tighten, increasing policy rates. And this has increased the risk of a severe slowdown in economic activities in this year and going into the next year. So even though Wisynco's products are mostly non-cyclical goods that we'll still consume, if there's a significant enough slowdown, it could somewhat curtail Wisynco's revenue and growth potential, as well as their profits. Additional risks to Wisynco's business include increasing labor costs. They have a very large sales force. So this tight labor market could lead to increased costs on that end. Additionally, the impact of the adverse weather conditions. For example, we're going through a current drought and they use a lot of input. They, for example, distribute trade wind products, true juice products. So if a drought really impacts that, it could turn around and impact the profits. However, with the consistent rise in demand for Wisynco's products, they're focused on expanding offerings, growing their revenue streams outside of Jamaica. We expect the outlook to still remain positive and for continued good performance. They recently declared a dividend of 22 cents, which was 10% increase over last year. So the company is optimistic, and so we are also remaining positive on them. So in summary, based on the company's performance and everything I have outlined, we believe that Wisynco offers sustained value to investors and is definitely a company that you can look to increase in your portfolio, because most persons have a little bit of Wisynco, so you can look to increase in your portfolio for 2023 going into 2024. Thank you.
With the disclaimer that this is not intended as financial advice.
Definitely do additional
great
research.
Presentation, Faye, because literally every question I thought of, you answered it before I had the opportunity to ask. So very thorough presentation. I really appreciate that. David, you are looking at an offer from NCB Capital Markets. I got that email in my inbox. I see that they are raising over $3 billion. Tell us what that is for and how people can participate.
So to keep it simple, NCBJ, meaning National Commercial Bank Jamaica Limited, they entered into a sale and leaseback arrangement with a cellular unit of a Barbadian company, right? That cellular company bought the properties from NCBJ for about $1.47 billion, and they've in turn entered into a 3-year triple net lease with NCBJ, which means that they collect lease income and own the properties, but they don't actually have to deal with the maintenance and so forth. In a sense, that's up to the, in this case, tenant or lessee. So what this offer basically is that this cellular entity is going to be purchased by NCB Capital Markets new real estate fund. And once that purchase is done, investors will get exposure to the underlying commercial assets of NCBJ. So what are these assets? To keep it simple, it's the different branches across the country. Duke Street in downtown, Half a Tree Branch, Nassau Boulevard, Trafalgar Road, Matilda's Corner, Mandeville, Maypen, even car parks. So, and this is about 1.48 million square feet of space across Jamaica. And they're basically raising about $3.19 billion to purchase the share from this cellular unit in Barbados. This is not necessarily new, but it's interesting to see that NCBJ has taken this route to not only free up capital in the case of liquidity for their own balance sheet, but also create another avenue for NCB Capital Markets to earn income, because the value of properties at $1.47 billion would equate to around $36 million annually just for NCB Capital Markets in additional management income.
So I'm just showing you what I got in my email.
Yes.
Jamaican dollar senior unsecured corporate bonds.
Oh, that's the bond. That's the real estate fund for Kalila.
Oh, it's a different thing?
Yes, so the bond right there is for NCB Financial Group, which is the parent company of the NCBJ, Guardian, and Clarion. And you have the real estate offer, which is
I think I saw that too. You're right. There are two different things.
Yes, some persons confuse them, so I had to just point that out. And, it's not necessarily new, to be honest. Like, for example, when I read the X Fund prospectus of 2013, I found out that, Surgical Jamaica, the company itself owns the top executive floor on that Barbados Avenue building, but the rest of it is owned by the real estate fund. So when you see Supreme Ventures in there, when you see Supreme Ventures, when you see Texaco and its other entities inside there, they're paying lease income to the real estate fund, which investors have access to. So in this case, NCB Capital Markets and NCBJ are creating another avenue for investors to benefit from their operations in a sense. So what they're pointing out right there in terms of returns is the potential returns that one will get after 1 year or 3 years holding based on the increase in value of the properties alongside the lease income that will be coming from NCBJ as well.
Right.
Any questions, Kalila, or anything from the chat?
I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. I guess everything is clear for the viewers. So they have actually extended the offer. It was supposed to close already, and they decided that they're going to extend it until
I think it's Friday.
Until March 31,
which is Friday.
Friday. So both offers are open until the 31st. So minimum on the real estate fund is 200,000. Minimum on the bonds is 100,000. So there are opportunities there through NCB Capital Markets to participate. Any risks that you see that could be associated with these?
Not significantly. So with respect to the bond, NCB Financial Group offering those rates is a reflection of what we're currently seeing in the general market. So remember that tomorrow the BOJ is going to decide on its policy rate. I think they're going to pause as well based on the Fed's recent hike and everything and slowed inflation. But when it comes to NCB Financial Group, you're looking at basically the subsidiary NCBJ and other entities, supporting the group in order to meet those future liabilities. And a relative 11%, 12% interest rate going down even 3-5 years is still a relatively decent return, considering you're going to see equities have a relative slump. At the same time, that when rates do come down, these higher rated instruments are going to be a lot more valuable to other investors who want a high yielding instrument at relative stability. So persons should remember that NCB Financial Group and other relevant subsidiaries are rated by Garrick, which is an independent credit rating agency that rates different companies based on different financial metrics and so forth. With respect to the real estate fund, the caveat persons should understand is that you you have a holding period, which is 1 year for one part and 3 years for the other. And there's a penalty if you choose to exit early. So person should be realistic and understand that, hey, the NCB bond is going to be listed. I'm not sure we're going to be bond or private market, but it's going to be listed. Unit trust, you have a penalty if you exit early. But at the same time, they intend to distribute to 85% of net distributable income to the holders of units in this unit trust. At the same time, you'll be basically benefiting from NCBJ, who is not likely to be closing some of these branches compared to the ATM network, which has been affected by this whole crime situation.
So I have a couple of questions in the chat, and I want to hear Faye's perspective on this as well. So Jovan says, is the fact that it's extended, does that mean that not a lot of people have jumped into the fund? What do you think, Faye? You wouldn't know, you don't have inside information, but based on how these things tend to work.
I would say not necessarily. Sometimes they advertise an offer and then they choose to take everything that person's sign up for and increase the allocation amount. So not necessarily.
Okay, and the next question comes from Shane. Okay, go ahead, David.
Also, for context, depends on the maturity of committed investors. So for example, you have investors who say, hey, I'd love to get into this offer, but my maturity on another fixed income instrument or this cash flow isn't coming until probably this week in March. So that's actually something that we need to remember. The maturity of when funds, unit trusts, pension funds, and so on get their cash actually impacts when the offer might close, because these guys usually tend to enter an offer at the last possible minute to actually maximize their ability to earn interest on the cash that they have on hand.
True. And then O'Shane has a question. He said, the real estate offer said it could earn up to 40%. Is this realistic?
So from my perspective, you have to remember how the fund works. So once the value of the real estate increases, and you're talking about real estate across the country, so you're talking about Northwell Boulevard, Duke Street, and so forth. Once it does increase and the net asset value increases lockstep at the projected levels that they're expecting, then 40% can be realistic. And it also depends on how
46% after 3 years. So it's not a quick 40% after 3
and it's a locked in 3 year as well. So it's not even a bad thing either, because like persons would have to be putting their money to buy property and then develop it themselves. These are already existing properties that are going to be in use for some extended time. And especially because these are the prime locations in the capital or main business areas of the country, these are branches that are going to be closed for some foreseeable time. And I was also going to say that depending on how the net distributions go as well, the retained cash can also go, to purchase other NCB J assets or even potentially garden assets. And on top of that, the value could continue to increase once they hold more cash as well and find other vehicles or instruments to earn income from.
Okay. Steve has a comment. Steve says, I think they're just delaying to have the teachers invest their back money.
That's another thing. That's an actual thing in Kalila, because persons are getting their retroactive money. Exactly. And I remember a board member of TJH, saying something on Twitter and now deleted tweet about, how a person should use their retroactive money. So I would not run any entity or business that is waiting to the last minute to shore up any available sources of capital, because the reality is capital is expensive now. I'm going to be like, wait, what are you talking about? Capital expensive. So realistic perspective, 3-5 years ago, BOJ was at 0.5% at their policy rate. You could get money at 5% interest rate, for example. You can get mortgages for as low as 5%, 3% with some entities. Hey, it all comes down to your credit rating and risk. But these were cheap then. Now you're talking about NCB Financial Group, for example, giving 12% interest rate. And you're also talking about, just the fact that everybody is offering some extremely great rates. Like even JMB is offering 8.5% for 90 days at $1 million. Your credit unions offering 7%, JN Bank offering 7%. So a lot of persons are competing for money right now, especially considering that persons are looking to find avenues to maintain value even though inflation is coming down. So there is a way to get, in this case, retroactive money that's coming into the economy, into their funds. I'd wait, especially the ones I do not have an urgent need to complete this particular transaction in a sense.
Yeah. Any final things that you want to say, Faye?
I would just say it sounds like a really good offer, but persons just have to make sure they do their due diligence because real estate has been performing very well over time, but we also still have to, with real estate, you have to depend on valuations to earn. So still do your due diligence and make sure that you are okay to invest for those long periods of time. You won't need your money before the time.
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much, Faye. Thank you,
some
David.
Well, something else, Kalila, just one final thing, especially since it's end of quarter. So one thing to remember, these guys, the transaction is supposed to be consummated by next month. So something to remember, JP Panjam. And then on top of that, with end of quarter, it means that you're going to see a lot of stocks running up on Friday before they come back down on Monday. So right now I'm looking at some great positions. I'm taking positions on some stocks, and I'm just looking forward to Friday to capitalize on some significant gains. So in the last 10 minutes of trading, you're going to see so many massive orders coming out of nowhere and prices fly. And especially with the fact that valuations of fixed income and other value assets have gone down, some stocks are really going to fly come Friday. It's not just really advice, it's just historical convention and based on what I've seen in the last couple of days. So I'd take that people have been just out in one sense, but at the same time, just observe what's going on in the market because it's been some interesting times because we saw JPS for 7% go as high as $400 yesterday.
Yes.
It came back down to $300 today, but I'm just pointing out something very critical because we're going to see some things fly, some things take a while to move, but end of quarter, end of financial year, guys, that is a period you should actually understand and take to your advantage. 20%, 30% on 2 or 3 weeks on end of quarter, end of financial year on some stocks is a wonderful way to get some extra cash in your pocket.
Well, thanks for the heads up. We'll definitely look out for those. Thanks again, David. Thank you, Faye. We will take a quick break and we'll be back with your final comments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Jamaica National Group. We'll help you find a way.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your presence every single week, guys. I have a course coming up, a brand new course, but it's not in finance. It's actually in social media. It's called Writing for Social Media, and I shall be announcing further details about that later on this week. In the meantime, you can go to writingforsocialmedia.com. But, this is kind of the teaser. I'm telling you what's coming. You can actually sign up for it now, but I'm going to be making a couple of little changes to that offer between today and tomorrow. So just letting you know what is coming up in April from KRM. We have a lot of other things that you can be looking out for very soon as well. But that's just one. That's just one of the things. So, because, I've learned a whole lot, hosting this show, running a social media business. There's just so much that I'd like to share with you beyond the world of finance. So I'm starting to venture out into that little space and helping you launch your social media business. But that's our show for this week. I want to make sure that you like this video if you haven't done it just yet. Glad to see that the views eventually went back up. I don't know why you guys were late this week. I forgive you. You can go back to the beginning and watch the beginning of the show once the broadcast has ended. You can also share it with a friend and, of course, get on that newsletter at KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter. And if you are new on that list, you do get a copy of my free broker guide. We also want you to turn on the post notifications so that you can be the first to see all the features when they come out. Why? Because we want to help people learn more about money. We all want to get this money together. We're a group, we're a team, we're a community, we're a family. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kalila Ray, and you can follow at KRM_business news on Instagram. And remember, those are my only accounts. I don't have any backup accounts. I will not ask you to invest in any crypto, nothing. I will not ask you for money. I just don't do that. Now, if you want to connect with the analyst this week, of course, you can check the description box below for their contact information and visit the website KalilaReynolds.com for financial information you can use however you like it. You can watch, you can listen, or you can read. Now, we want you to tell a friend about taking stock because investing is the new sexy. Let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Thanks for watching and see you next week.
Let's get this money.